Welcome to WagerTalk's last call. As you guys can tell, I'm not in my usual office, so I apologize if there is any issues, but there shouldn't be. We have a star-studded lineup today, starting off with Arthur DiCesare, one of my favorite guys there over at the Westgate Superbook. At least if we're looking at my power ratings-wise, I'd have to say he's definitely in my top three. Of course, then we've got VR. No steam room today on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, so he's going to take all of your questions in the chat. Then we got Teddy Covers popping on to talk a couple of NFL games today. I know one of them's not very exciting, but the other one definitely has some fun implications. And then we've got Hakeem Prophet, first time, last call, at least with me. He's going to come in and talk some of the marquee basketball games. And then, of course, our guy to talk all of the trash basketball, Adam Trigger, is going to be taking all of your smaller conference questions for today's Saturday slate. It's 11:04 here on the East Coast, so we better get this thing going. Art DiCesare, Westgate Superbook. Are you live from John Murray's office, or did he still lock you out?
John Murray continues to lock me out. I'm in his old office, which is like bare bones skeleton in here. You know, John's an important guy, Kelly. You know that. So he's got to keep us lower level guys out of his office.
And this is why he's not even in the top 5 of my power ratings there behind the counter at the Westgate Superbook. There's a couple of people who don't even work there anymore that might be power rated higher than him. Cough, Lisa. That being said, let's get into today's slate for the NFL right off the top. A pair of interesting games. One is now up to 20.5 here on the OddsLogic screen over at the Westgate Superbook. I am just appalled. I understand the Ravens need to win this football game, but come on, man.
It's unbelievable, Kelly. And, you know, we took early sharp money during the week at like 17 and a half, which is still an obscene, it's an insane number. Now we're 20 and a half, and they were even betting the Ravens this morning at 20, which made us go up another half a point. They can't stop betting the Ravens. We will need the Browns to cover the game. I don't know if they can do it with Bailey Zappi and DTR, but, I'm with you guys. The thought process of the Ravens playing their guys deep into the third and fourth quarter, I don't really see that because they just need to win the game. But they're betting the Ravens like they know the score.
I would not be surprised to see this somehow turn into a dogfight late. We'll see. I don't know if I can bet the Browns. Maybe I'll look at them at halftime. All right, let's talk about the other game that I teased. The Pittsburgh Steelers, plus 2.5 now pretty much across the board here. Your thoughts on the Bengals? And if there's appear to be the right side here, I still can't figure out the Steelers team, Art. They have eluded me all season long. I'm not sure if Russell Wilson is good. I do know Joe Burrow is good. I do know that his defense is bad.
Yeah, and the public's betting the Bengals, and there's no surprise there. And that's a line that's kind of gone all over the place. Like you said, right now it's 2.5, but we were as low as Bengals -1. So we saw Steeler money early, but then the public and just, the way the market moved the Bengals back up. I'm with you. It's very hard to figure out Pittsburgh. They've been very Jekyll and Hyde and kind of, haven't been good the last couple weeks. Granted, they played 3 of the best teams in a 10-day stretch, so that happens. But obviously the Bengals are going to be going out to win the game. I like your move to tease the game, tease them through 7. If you got Pittsburgh in that type of spot, it doesn't seem like a bad move.
Yeah, I think within a touchdown divisional game, last game of the year, that's kind of my logic, even though the total is a little higher than I'd normally like to. We'll talk more teasers when we get VR in here in a second. But Art, normally on Wednesdays, we see you for the Bet On It College Football Edition. But before then, I got to ask, what do we see in early college football playoffs? Let's talk Notre Dame, Penn State.
We opened Notre Dame 1.5 for now 2 against Penn State. So just a little bit of movement there, but not much yet really to report. We really just moved with the market on that.
Okay, let's get into the game that I care most about. I am holding an Ohio State future. Plus 525 to win it all, plus 280 to just make it in. That means I basically have plus 280 on Ohio State to win this football game. Do you think I sit back, relax, or should I be putting a little bit on Texas money line, maybe even Texas plus 6 as a possible middle here?
And that's what we have. We do have Ohio State 6. We were 6.5 for a little bit. We saw some Texas money, not sharp money, just a little bit of money, and we moved. You know what, Kelly? I'm usually a hedge guy and want to take a profit and move on with my day, but Ohio State just seems too good. Texas has really been dodging bullets here towards the end of the season. I think Ohio State's going to roll in the game. I really believe that.
Yeah, me too. And I think that will ultimately be what I move is just sit back, relax, and enjoy a Texas ass kicking. Those games are Thursday and Friday. So we will check in with Art on Wednesday on Bet On It. Of course, we will talk with him about the wild card round as well on the NFL edition. Art, before we let you go here, talk to me with some sharp college basketball, maybe see who the public is betting today. I know those games are getting underway here in about 51 minutes.
A lot of marquee matchups. This is obviously the best Saturday of the year and a full Saturday. Huge amount of games. We saw sharp money on BYU at plus 10.5, but then Houston, their big guy Sharp, got ruled in probable, so you saw a little bit of buyback there. So two groups on both sides there. We're now in the middle at 10. Public's on Arkansas plus 12 at number 1 Tennessee. They're also on undefeated Oklahoma plus 12.5 at Alabama. Sharps laid 2.5 with Cincinnati at home against Arizona. They took Texas plus 6.5 against A&M. I believe that's at A&M. And they also took Utah plus 3. Or I'm sorry, they took Utah plus 3 against Texas Tech.
All right, some sharp action, some public action. Anything else you'd like to leave us with on this beautiful Saturday morning?
No, listen, this is a great day of sports. Obviously, we got, a bowl game that just kicked off. We got all the basketball, and it's going to be a lot of fun to be on Bet On this week and all the WagerTalk shows because we're going to have, obviously, huge college football games to discuss and NFL playoffs. Finally, I can't wait.
Finally, I agree. Let's let Art get back behind the counter there at the Westgate Superbook at ArtDice21. Make sure you guys are following him on X. You guys can also find him here on Wednesdays on WagerTalk Today and, of course, Bet On It. Thank you again to Art. If you guys have a question for one of our handicappers coming up, please drop into the chat. If you're enjoying what we're doing here on this beautiful Saturday morning, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because we are here for you. Let's see what VR's got behind that laptop screen. No steam room today, so we have a little bit of extra time with VR, which I always appreciate his insight. So if you guys have a question for him, again, please drop it in the chat. We've got Teddy Covers coming up next, then Hakeem Profit, and of course, Adam Trigger taking all of those small market college basketball games for you. VR, usually I just let you hit the ground running, but let's break this up like I did with Art. Let's go.
Your hair looks lovely today. Your hair looks very nice today, Kel. It really looks nice.
I appreciate that. I am at my dad's house, so I had to use a myriad of hilarious products that I just had randomly in a drawer, and it worked out well for me. So let's get into some of these NFL games really quick. There's 2 of them today, and then I know that we usually talk teasers solely on Sunday, but as it stands right now, I do have an open teaser, and I know not everybody has that ability. I really like the Steelers in a teaser here. As Andrew said, Steelers-Vikings teasers, that is what I gave out on Bet On It. Now Vikings are up to 3, so they are no longer teasable. They probably should never have been. Let's be honest. We know a sharp group took the Lions, but let's talk Steelers, maybe a possible teaser spot with them. If not, break down both those games, what you're seeing on your side of the laptop.
Absolutely. Browns, Ravens, they just keep betting the Ravens, Kel. I mean, the sharp bettors got down early. And when it comes down to the last 2 weeks, a lot of times what the betting syndicates do, they try to take advantage of the biases of the bettors because they know the lines will move significantly. Meaning as some games go final, the seeding changes or the playoff implication changes and the line ends up moving significantly. They try to get out ahead of these things. Knowing Baltimore is going to show up today because they won't have the outcome of the Pittsburgh final and just how the Browns have absolutely no reason at all to show up other than it's Baltimore, they just keep betting the Baltimore Ravens. But you got to get to a point where there has to be some value on the other side. And to me, I can't bet the Baltimore side anymore. I mean, it was 17.5, 18, 19. Now we're up to 20. What scares me is we haven't seen any resistance, meaning even at 20, nobody sharp, none of the betting syndicates that I work with or I share information with have even taken this 20 or 20 and a halves that are out there. So if it gets to 21, that's where I'll be interested. If I see 21 and that doesn't get wiped off the board, then it's a telling sign. Baltimore's probably going to win this by 4 or 5 touchdowns. In the second game, Cincinnati needs a win, right? And a Denver loss to make the playoffs. So Cincinnati's in that must-win situation. So no surprise, they're getting most of the public money. even with the return of Joey Porter. But I'm going to add this. Let's not forget, these two teams played not long ago, and they played in Cincinnati. That game closed as Cincinnati about a 3-point favorite at home against this very same Pittsburgh Steelers team. Now you're laying that same price on the road. Is it justified because Pittsburgh isn't going to show up, isn't going to play, isn't going to care? I'm not too sure about that, especially against the Cincinnati Bengals. They are your arch rival, and you could ruin their season. You could end it for them, so it doesn't even matter what Denver does. Pittsburgh has that ability at home on a primetime game. Rest assured, you're going to get effort from them. That's what Tomlin does. So I like the Steelers as well. I like your teaser. The only thing I worry about is the high total. As the total gets higher, points are worth less. And I loved it more yesterday because I had seen all that under money from sharp bettors earlier, but I'm starting to see the over money come in too now from sharp bettors. I thought it was just public money, but one of the guys that I share plays with who moves for other guys, he's like, no, we bet over 47.5 this morning. So it's definitely a difference of opinion between the over and the under from sharp bettors. But if the late money is correct on the over, that takes a little bit of value away from the Steelers teaser. If you only could, if you have to close your teasers, I wouldn't use it. Meaning if you have to put it in today with the second leg, I would be cautious. I like when it's standalone games or when it's a Sunday night game, a Monday night game, a later game, I like to use them in outs that I have that I could use an open-end teaser where I could just put one side of it and then I'll close it whenever. Next week, the week after, whenever it suits me. If you don't have that ability with your out, I probably wouldn't force too many teaser bets with the Steelers today just because we don't know, based on today's outcomes, how lines are going to move so significantly tomorrow or what's going to happen tomorrow. Because again, most of the betting public hasn't really gotten involved yet. They wait till game day. And I think we're going to see a lot of line moves in the NFL. Personally, I can't say I like the Browns. What I'm saying is I think if it gets to 21, I'll be forced to sprinkle a little something on the Browns. But I do like the Steelers. I do think that the Steelers, Cincinnati's being overpriced. I think you're getting the best of it with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think they're more than capable of winning this game at home where they played so much better than on the road. I know I went long there, but the takeaway is I like the Steelers. There's two-way sharp action on the total there, and it's just one-way action on the Ravens game.
Don't worry, we still have 44 minutes till kickoff. I know we've got some other stuff to get into here in a little bit with you. Is that your phone going off because there are late-breaking plays coming in? That's my next question.
A bunch of props, Kel. There's a bunch of props. They just keep sending these freaking props, and they're so hard to get. I'm going to share what I can with you guys right now. Let me give you some for this game because a lot of these are for the win. Chase Brown, Cincinnati, Chase Brown, rushing yards. They're going under 69.5 at minus 110, all the way to under 68, all the way to 68. They're willing to go there. Yard and a half worse. So the Chase Brown under is definitely sharp. What else for these games? A lot of this is for the Baltimore. Derrick Henry. Oh, here's a long shot. Derrick Henry. First half touchdown. They bet him to place a first half touchdown at about even money. And long shot. Derrick Henry first half, just the first half to score a touchdown. And they sprinkled a little on him. I think it's plus 300 to be the first touchdown of the game. I don't really like betting those. I know a lot of people do. What else? Joe Burrow, rushing yards. No. Those numbers ain't available. But I just want to give you the stuff that you can get. Tomorrow, Minnesota. Let me give you this one because they bet it a couple times. Justin Jefferson, receiving yards, over 90.5, over 91, over 91.5, over 92, over 92.5, and over 93 on Justin Jefferson. So they expect Justin Jefferson to have a big day tomorrow. And also, where was that? Calvin Ridley, Tennessee, receiving yards, over 60.5, over 61, over 61.5, over 62, over 62.5. Calvin Ridley, Tennessee, receiving yards, over. So a couple bonus plays came in while we were doing this live.
I love that. That's great. And I can promise you Justin Jefferson is going to have an amazing game because he only got me like 16 points last week and it cost me my fantasy football championship. I digress. VR, let's get into some college basketball here before we let you go. Guys, again, if you have a question for VR, please drop it in the chat and we will get to it. But I'm going to let him just go and rattle off all of the college basketball that they played today.
Absolutely. Let's start off with one extra game board that multiple groups got down on, and that's Stephen F. Austin, 306-602. Stephen F. Austin. We bet him at -4, bet him at -4.5, got to that number 5, which actually matters a little bit in college basketball, and they still laid the 5 as well. So Stephen F. Austin in the extra board. Now the regular board games, 613, North Carolina -4, 686, Western Carolina +12.5, +12, 689, IU Indianapolis plus the 10.5 plus the 10. 729 Western Illinois +3. 686 Western Carolina +12.5. And 794 Grand Canyon -14, -15, -16, -16.5 on Grand Canyon. And a couple totals for you. 645 over 152.5 and 153. Western Kentucky, Florida International. 631 over 136.5. Wisconsin, Green Bay, Northern Kentucky. 652 under 136.5. UL Monroe, Coastal Carolina. And 704 under K-State, TCU. Under 141. That's there for Kelly. And finally, there's an NBA first half. First half where we bet the side and the money line. We took the San Antonio Spurs in the first half. And the bets came in simultaneously. So that means they want more money down as possible before the line moves. When they come in and send immediately, take the +1.5 on San Antonio, take the +1 on San Antonio, and take the money line at +120 and +115. That's just a way to get more money down, because you got to remember, limits are smaller, especially earlier, and more importantly, in these first halves, they ain't taking a ton of money on it. So it's a way for them to get more money down. San Antonio Spurs first half. Again, whether you follow or fade, I hope you do some damage. College basketball, we've been on fire. I know I'm number one over the last 30 days, over 11% ROI, over 35%, 35 units of profit. So their college basketball is really starting to roll with all the attention on the college football playoffs and the NFL playoffs up ahead.
All right, VR, really quickly, can you tell everybody what they can expect from you tomorrow in the Steam Room and where they can get your premium plays on WagerTalk.com?
Absolutely. Head on over to WagerTalk.com. We have the Steam Room going tomorrow, where I will break down in detail the 2025 approach. Low volume. That's what we've been doing so far. We kicked some ass yesterday, and I feel really confident doing it like this, narrowing it down. In fact, out of all those college basketball games today, I think I gave out 2 or 3 premiums max. So they got to be very, very, very stringent on those plays. And with that said, I got NFL up already for tomorrow. There'll be an NFL play later for today as well. Already got college basketball up. So head on over. A lot of good things happening. And again, the Steam Room will be tomorrow from 8 a.m. Pacific up through kickoff, where we go over each and every game, plus all these props that'll keep coming in, all those team totals, all that bonus stuff. Thank you, Kel, for sharing some of your time, and I wish you the best of luck. I think we have to hedge that Ohio State bet a little bit, Kel, just because especially if you get 7 on Texas, like I think you have to, just because power rating wise, I do think they're closer than that. What it shows, I think we're paying for a little recency bias in how well Ohio State has looked. That's what I think. Now they could continue rolling. I hope they do, but that's what scares me a little bit. So hopefully we could hit a middle right there. If we could get the 7 on Texas, and we get Ohio State to win by, within a touchdown, that's wishing for the best, but who knows? I just think power rating wise, they're a lot closer than 7. And I think we're being forced to pay for what happened the last couple weeks.
All right. Well, you and I are going to talk about that on Wednesday on Bet On It. You can catch VR on Bet On It as well as Wager Talk today. And of course, every single Saturday and Sunday here on Last Call. At Greek_Gambler, at Greek_Gambler7 on TikTok, and of course, WT.buzz/VR for all of his premium plays. We're going to bring in Teddy Covers in here shortly, but I wanted to tell you guys about OddsLogic. Right now, you can get a free 30 days with me, no credit card needed. OddsLogic.com/KellyInVegas. You're going to get breaking injury alerts. You're going to get the fastest updates from the top sports books worldwide. And my favorite part about that is you can actually customize it. So I can put Superbook first. I can put BetMGM second. I can put Hard Rock third, ESPN Bet fourth, or Circa first, whatever you want. It is awesome. You can also get some of those public betting percentages. And you can also get all of your live odds. OddsLogic.com/KellyInVegas. This is a tool every single sports bettor needs to be using. All right, Teddy Covers, who joins me every single Wednesday on Bet On It, is going to join us today. You guys can ask him any question that you want in the chat. He's even got a Superbook sports hat on. We've got a couple of games today here, Teddy, and we've kind of already touched on them a little bit. Baltimore, 20.5. Do we see 21 here over this Browns team that nobody wants to bet?
I got to think at some point there'll be some buyback, but we haven't seen it yet. I mean, recognize, all right, this is not a public money move. This is a sharp money move, all right? They poured in. I mean, the money is absolutely poured in on Baltimore for this one. And, I mean, Cleveland beat them the first time they met. They beat them last year. You go back the last 8 meetings between these two teams, and only one time has anyone won by more than a touchdown, or more than double digits, I should say, more than 10 points. So it's not like Baltimore has been consistently annihilating this squad. Now, obviously, you look at the Browns right now, and it's a bad team at the tail end of a disappointing season, and those aren't necessarily the teams you want in Week 18. And of course, offensively, Cleveland scored 7, 6, and 3 in their last 3 ball games. So it's not like they've been lighting up the scoreboard. That said, they made a QB change today to Bailey Zappi. Does that make a difference? Probably not. In general, would I rather lay 20 than take 20 in an NFL game? Probably. But it's hard for me to get to the window laying 20. Especially, and look, if you want Baltimore, this to me is the ultimate pass game from a side standpoint. If you want Baltimore, you missed a number, and you ain't going to make money in the NFL trying to bet numbers that are gone already and trying to bet the steam after the fact. Can't do it. So Baltimore is, in my mind, not the team to bet today. Cleveland, sure, taking 20, the series history, all that says maybe you look at the Browns side of the equation. But in general, again, NFL in college football, I'd rather lay 20 than take 20. Or college football, I'd rather lay 40 than take 40. The underdogs in these games tend to be outclassed, and certainly we know that Baltimore is playing for something, and we know Cleveland isn't.
Teddy, let's talk halftime here. Let's see. Sure. Let's take this approach. Okay, let's just say that we don't see 21, right? We don't see a key number here with the Browns. We start watching end game, and Baltimore's up 21-3 at half. So we know that at a point Harbaugh might say, okay, let's reel Henry back in a little bit. Let's pull Lamar. I mean, we know some coaches love to protect their stars. We know Dan Campbell does not care. He wants to win football games. Is Harbaugh a guy you trust to maybe call off the dogs per se?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Look, all right. If Baltimore's up 21-3 at half, Baltimore starters come out in the third quarter. All right. And then, if it's a 4-touchdown game in the fourth, maybe we see guys sit. But 21-3 half, I'm not comfortable not bringing my starters back out. Would you be?
That's fair. This is a game they have to win.
Yeah.
Just not by
do they have
3-touchdown margin. that's where my brain gets going. I agree with you, Teddy. Sure, listen, I'm not making a case for the Browns here. I'm just wondering if there maybe is like an in-play edge or, something like late second quarter, you're like, you know what? I'm going to look at this game at halftime, and here's why. And maybe, like you said, this is the ultimate pass game, and I'm over here trying to make a conversation about a game that we should not have any business even getting involved in.
I mean, that's one of my, I guess when you talk about your strengths and weaknesses as a handicapper, I'm not great at finding plays in games that I don't have a strong opinion on. There are guys that do. I don't. I look at this. I mean,
think that's a great strength.
Maybe I look at a first half first half over. All right. Baltimore's going to come out firing. Zappi, one would think, would be throwing on downfield. Maybe that's a game. But again, it's not anything that's me scrounging around trying to say, all right, can I find something? Yeah, I guess this is what I would look at. There are 21s out there for the first half. And if I had to make a game, that would be the way I would look, probably be over 21 first half. But it's not anything I'm betting. It's not anything I'm close to betting. It's me trying to come up with something in a game that I'm not going to touch.
Let's move on to the other game. I like the Steelers. I did tease them. You saw that on Wednesday on Bet On It. Here's the reality. I like Mike Tomlin as a coach, and I trust what he says. And I also have seen Russell Wilson's, we'll call it improvement, at least from Denver, if you will. I think he fits in better in that system. And, like VR said, these two teams are divisional rivals in whatever capacity, whether it's, they hate each other the most or they hate the other teams more. It doesn't matter. I think this is going to be a very good game. And I do think the Steelers are that quintessential take the better defense plus the points here.
So I'm not with you on this one, Kel. I can only look at the Cincinnati side, and it's real simple for me conceptually. One team's trending up, one team's trending down. And it's not been a little thing. This has been going on for a month now, where Pittsburgh has failed repeatedly, and Cincinnati continues to do well. And obviously, at this point, the betting markets have caught up mostly, but have they? I mean, Pittsburgh has not been good in recent weeks. There's no sugarcoating how bad the Steelers have been. They've been blown out 3 straight games, and obviously Philadelphia, Baltimore, Kansas City, 3 pretty good teams, no question. But right now, Cincinnati's a pretty good team. And I remember the first meeting between these two teams, the Steelers they were unable to stop Joe Burrow and company. All right. They were on the fortuitous side in that ball game. And, they were lucky. And I had them that day. They were lucky. The defense couldn't get stops, and it's a defense that struggled to get stops in recent weeks. So, yes, we like Tomlin, but right now his team is playing like the team we thought they were going to be coming into the season, which is a sub-500 squad. That's where Pittsburgh was lined. We think about the Steelers and all that success they had as underdogs early season. Man, we made a bunch of money with Pittsburgh. They won on opening day in Atlanta as dogs. They beat the Jets as dogs. And then they actually beat some good teams, Washington, Baltimore, Cincinnati, all as underdogs. They started the season 5-0 in that role. Well, they've lost their last 3 now, stepping up in class. So the early success for Pittsburgh hasn't carried over. And what happens if/when Baltimore rolls Cleveland? I know Tomlin said we need this win. It doesn't matter if Baltimore wins or not. But the natural human reaction is exhale. I can't get there with Pittsburgh. It's sincere pass for this better. Right now, they're the better team.
All right, sincere pass for Teddy. One last question. Lewis wants to know about the total in that game. I know you just mentioned that we are on opposite sides. As VR mentioned, it was 48.5 down to 48, 47.5, and boom, a sharp group popped that lower total. How significant is 48 in regards to a key number as in totals perspectives? And do you like the over in today's game?
So there's a ton of key numbers when it comes to overs, but none of them are as important as your 3s and your 7s when it comes to sides. You can look at 41s and 42s. You can look at 49s. You can look at 51s as another key number. 48 certainly in the mix, but it's not. I don't worry nearly as much about the key number. 51 is the one that I really care about for NFL totals. I mean, that's the one that has stood out to me. And, you get to under 50.5, they get to 51. You get to over 50, it's 51.5. The 51 is one that absolutely stands out to me. 48 is not. 49 is for what it's worth. But it's nothing I'm not going to make a bet based on that number. Based on is this a key number in totals wise? That said, I'm not in a rush to bet this game under, since he's not an under team, since he's as strong an over team as it gets. And the first time these two teams met, obviously we got 80 points, 82 points on the scoreboard. So I can understand the over money coming in, but it's not anything I bet. It's not anything I'm close to betting.
Awesome stuff, guys. You can check out Teddy every single Wednesday on the NFL edition of Bet On It with me. Get all of his NFL opinions on wt.buzz/TC. Teddy, anything you'd like to leave our audience with?
Gosh, I don't know. Have a great day. Win big. Have a better day than I did yesterday.
Let's have a great day. Let's make some money. That is always our mantra here at WagerTalk. If you guys are watching on the YouTube channel, on the TikTok, on the Instagram, on X, please drop us a like, thumbs up, whatever. Hit that heart button or subscribe. We're going to bring in Hakeem Prophet. You guys may know him as Skee. He's got a new show out he's going to tell us about with our good friend Ronald Kabang. And we're going to talk some top 25 college basketball. What up, Skee?
Hey, Kelly. It's good to see you. Good to talk to you. Yeah, I did that show with Ronald Kabang. Was it the day before yesterday? It was our first time doing it, and it went really well. It's a show where we'll talk about games overnight get ahead of the spread, ahead of all those lines, and just, try to beat some numbers, win some tickets. So we plan on doing it pretty much for all the weekday games. If you know me, it's going to be very hard to get me on the screen at nighttime on the weekend. So look out for Ahead of the Spread with me and Cabane.
Ahead of the Spread, the new show on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. It is awesome. That is one of the best parts about living on the West Coast is you can not be too tired to bet those overnights. Now I'm getting up early and looking at those line moves every single morning. So Skee and Kabang taking advantage of their time zone. All right, Skee, we're going to talk some games here. Let me pull up the chat, see what you guys want to hear about. Okay, let's go here. Houston, BYU. You, of all people, said last year, I think it might have been the last 2 years. Kelly, we got to be betting Houston first half. When I was in Vegas with you when the college basketball season first started, we got to buy the hook. Actually, I think I got to buy the hook. You might have had a better number than me, but it was a sweat. So talk to me about Houston, BYU. We looking at the first half here?
Yeah, I remember that game. I think it was a last-second shot, and I got so excited. I just went crazy a little bit. But yeah, it's been pretty consistent. I'll talk about the spread last this time around. Usually I like to talk about it first, but I got a little bit of a write-up. I'll read some of this off. Houston, they allow a lot of three-pointers, mostly because they're number one defense inside the arc. However, just because they allow a lot of threes doesn't mean they aren't contested. Houston's still number 21 in three-point defense. So the combination of those two things is going to make it difficult for BYU to score. And Houston also team, because of how they play so much aggressive defense, they foul a lot. But BYU is a team that doesn't get to the line frequently. And when they do, they only shoot 69.5%. They're not going to be able to take advantage of it. BYU is a team that has good defense inside the arc. And Houston this year, normally they're a good three-point shooting team. And this has changed. So I'll explain afterwards. But they said Sharp was in a walking boot. I was expecting him not to play. He's their second best three-point shooter. And whenever he's off the court or Crier's off the court, the offense usually struggles without him. So I was thinking the offense could struggle a little bit, and Houston will not be able to offensive rebound like they're accustomed to because BYU is the number one defensive rebounding team in the nation. My mind, if the Houston Cougars are going to win and cover this game, is going to have to be behind dominant defensive performance, and that's what they've shown. They've gone under in every home game except for one. Houston also 4-0 to the under this season when they're at a rest disadvantage, as long as it's not on a neutral court. None of those games reach 133, so I expect this one to be lower scoring as well. Now, I just heard in the beginning of this show, and that's why it's good. Sharp is expected to be in now. He was just in the walking boot, but now he's expected to be in, and he's a big piece for Houston. So if he's in, if he's good to go, I will be right back on that Houston first half. Just something that I have to play. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So under
I love it.
And first half for Houston.
All right, glad to know. This is what we do here on Last Call. We bring you that late information. All right, Skee, let's go over to the Big 12. The Big 12 this year, I think, has been rather interesting, right? The cream is going to not rise to the top just yet. We've seen teams like the University of Kansas lose at home, which just doesn't happen very often. But one team that has been very, very dominant is this Iowa State team, especially in Ames. We know the Hilton magic is real. You think we should be laying it here with Iowa State?
I do. Since they got the coach from UNLV, they've been a really good defensive team. Every single year has been, what can the offense do? And now, they have elite guard play. I like Keyshawn Gilbert, Curtis Jones, etc. It's a couple really good guys. They got 6 players who average double digits on this team. Gilbert, he's their go-to scorer. He can really do everything. He does a good job getting to the basket, getting to the free throw line. And then I would like to compare Curtis Jones to like a Lou Will kind of 6-man type player. So the offense this season, it allows them to compete with anybody. And you kind of mentioned they're just a tip in away from being undefeated. They've won 7 straight games by double digits, and they've covered versus some quality opponents. A couple of them, Marquette by 11, and I know they beat Colorado twice by double digits. You look at Baylor, they played 3 opponents in the top 15, and they got smoked by all of them. Maybe not so much smoked by UConn, but they lost badly in the other 2. The best part of Baylor, my opinion, is their guards, and I think Iowa State has the better guards. Baylor, they start 2 bigs that can't shoot, And I think those two guards can also get exposed on defense, mostly in the pick and roll. So I, I have a hard time seeing how Baylor matches up in this game. I don't think they can go small either because the bigs for Iowa State are good too. Baylor is number 332 defending the three, number 316 in free throw attempts, and they shoot free throws at just 70.6% when they do get there. Iowa State, number 23 in free throw attempts allowed, number 46 in free throw attempts, and number 66 in free throw percentage at 75.9%. I think we get the 8th double-digit victory in a row for Iowa State today.
Yeah, this is a lot of points, Skee, but I think it's very telling. When I looked at this game personally, you just nailed it. They make their free throws, they get buckets, they don't turn the ball over, right? Like there is something that's not quite cohesive with this Baylor team just yet, and I can't quite put my finger on it. You mentioned those top 25 losses, right? And then they've just coupled it up with some really nice wins over, well, some teams that really aren't even in the top 50. So I think this is a lay it or don't play it scenario. I like Iowa State with you, but I will say this. I laid it with good old Ohio State last night. So let's talk about this Nebraska UCLA game. Richard Lockhart wants to know. This was another game that was on my radar. Skee and I are the same. We like these bigger market games. So if you guys have a question about a smaller market, drop it in the chat, and when Adam Trigger comes in, we'll get to it. So Nebraska here versus UCLA. Teddy and I talked about UCLA last week. I said, man, Mick Cronin has this defense humming. The only thing that really I don't trust about them, and they did end up beating Gonzaga. They're on that semi-home court. I think they down the stretch, I need to have teams that I can trust to make their free throws. And that is my one asterisk with UCLA that frustrates me, at least from the few games that I've got to catch from them. I need to be able to trust these teams that are going to get buckets late. What do you think about Nebraska? He wants to know about the money line. I know you like the total.
No, I actually do like the money line for Nebraska. I agree with you. UCLA, they are a poor free throw shooting team. I see them at 68.8% compared to Nebraska, who is the team that gets to the line a lot, and they shoot 76.5%. So that's a plus for Nebraska. Nebraska is also playing well right now. They've won 8 of their last 9 games, including wins over Creighton, who was ranked number 14, and Indiana. Both of those wins are as underdogs. This is really just a spot play for me. I mean, you said about UCLA's defense. I'm not mad if you want to look at the under in this game, but this is UCLA's first trip east. I think it's a letdown spot after they just got by Gonzaga. And in that game versus Gonzaga, they shot 50% from 3. I think we'll see some regression for that. UCLA also a team that wants to play more inside out, play through the post, and Nebraska is good at denying the post. So because of all those things, I think that Nebraska is favored for a reason over ranked UCLA today, and I think they get the W.
All right, Skee. I appreciate you popping on here on this beautiful Saturday morning. I know it's early out there for a guy who likes to play craps until 3 a.m. in the casino. All jokes aside, tell me what you've got going on over at WagerTalk.com, and remind everybody where they can catch you and Kabang's new show.
Yeah, work hard, play hard. That's how I live. So all of my work, everything I do at WagerTalk.com. I know college basketball, I've been on a bit of a run. I'll be honest, Kelly. This is my secret. When I start winning, I don't really like to look at the streak because then it makes me feel a little bit more complacent. So I don't even know how exactly how good I'm doing, but I know I'm up in college basketball, and college football has been great too. NFL's been on a streak as well. NBA, the last week of December was very bad, but other than that, it's been good ever since, past the first 3 weeks of the season. So everything is trending in the right direction. I won last year, 2024, won the year before that, and we'll look to win again. As far as the head of the spread, the next episode you can look for will be tomorrow night, and we'll look at the Monday games, and we'll do it, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and get you guys prepared on some early lines for the weekday game. So find all of that stuff here at WagerTalk.com.
I love it. You guys can find Skee at Skee Profit on all your social media channels. And I don't want to mush Skee, so you guys just head over to WagerTalk.com. You can see the leaderboard. You can break it down by all sports. You can break it down by individual sports, but you don't get to come on last call unless you are red hot. He has been red hot in college basketball, and I will be joining him today on Nebraska and Iowa State. Thank you to Skee for popping on. We've got 17 minutes until tip-off, so we're going to bring in Adam Trigger here to take us home with some of those smaller market games. Adam, I kind of decided last minute that we've got to have a hybrid of you and where I'm talking the top 25 games with him, but also I know you've got some winners that you love to give out to our audience. So I'm going to let you take the floor while we wait for some questions to populate. Guys, again, if you have a question for Adam regarding one of these smaller market games, of course, you can always ask our key games as well. But Adam likes to dig deep into some of these smaller conferences, so I'm going to let him have the floor.
Yeah, it's partly digging deep, Kellen. It's just where I live. If you in the snowy Northeast, I just posted a picture of the, first foot of like the 2 we're going to get of snow today. A lot of these conferences are in my backyard, so they're just easy to follow. I get out to a lot of the games, and I think I have a good beat on them. Not to mention, there's just a bigger edge long term. Like if you're going to have a harder time finding edges against the market in the Big 12 as you are the Patriot League. So that's just some of how I handicap games. I'll give you one that goes at noon, and then you can fire away. I have all my notes up. I made notes on every single game today, so there's nothing I won't have a comment on. But I'll give you my play at noon. I laid 3 with the Northeastern. Reason being, I just think that Hofstra is just a complete mess right now, and I don't see how they fix it in this matchup. So Northeastern is I've been higher on them relative to the market since the beginning of the year. They had a guy by the name of Jared Turner leave the program about 2 weeks before the season. I wasn't sure how that was going to affect this team, but they came out, started 5-1 without one of their best players. If Masai Troutman played against Princeton, I really think Northeastern would have won that game. They ended up covering at home, lost by 3. It's their only home loss of the year to this point. They're at home again today. I don't know how Hofstra scores consistently enough to win this game. That's what it comes down to. Hofstra is so sloppy offensively. They turn the ball over, and you've got a trio of guys on Northeastern, Troutman, King, Woods, that all can kind of go off the dribble, get to the bucket, hit a jump shot. And that's kind of what you have. You have to have players like that to beat Hofstra, who do a really good job at defending the paint. So I don't think Northeastern is going to need to just settle for threes, which is kind of what Hofstra wants you to do. And, right now, with the state that this Hofstra team is in after getting blown out on Thursday by William & Mary, I don't see how they turn around and fix things in 2 days going on the road where they haven't played particularly well. There are only 2 road wins, Kelly, way back in November, and they look way more impressive than they are. They beat UMass and Seton Hall. But if you think back to the early part of the season, both of those teams were a total disaster at that time. So, again, I have this Northeastern -6. You only have to lay 3. I think it's a good bet to start the day.
All right. Northeastern. Let's talk about UIC and Belmont in college basketball. Tam Richardson wants to know. I do not have my OddsLogic odds screen pulled up. Give me 1 second to try to figure out what even conference that is in, Adam Trigger.
That is the Missouri Valley.
Oh, yes, it is. There we go.
Yep.
Current line 5.5, 157.5. UIC plus 5.5 at Belmont. Starts at 5 p.m. Eastern today.
Yeah, it would only be UIC for me. And this was actually, as I sort of, look through the 8 pages of notes I've made, it's one I wrote down. It's on my radar. I think the only thing that scares me off, and you can chime in on this, Kel, just in general, Illinois Chicago is a team I've wanted to back, and I have backed them a couple times this year. But they just beat Drake. They just knocked off undefeated Drake, right? Like, it'll be the biggest win of their season. Drake came into that game 13-0. If they hadn't cracked the national rankings yet, they were close. So that's like the only thing that keeps me off Illinois Chicago, and it's why I have a hard time playing it, because they just had the biggest win of their season, and now they have to go on the road to play a Belmont team who I'm a little bit down on this year, but they're not a bad team. Like that's I think the big takeaway. The Missouri Valley's got a lot of quality basketball teams, and you've got Belmont, who's now lost 3 really tough games. Irvine, Drake, Northern Iowa, they get to come home here. So even though I'm very high on Illinois Chicago, I think there's value in the number at 6. The spot is just, I can't play them off the Drake win and then play into a Belmont team that's lost 3 straight. So that keeps me off, even though the Flames definitely have line value at 6.
All right, guys, any more questions for Adam? Please drop it in the chat. I'm over here betting on the Hard Rock app. Don't mind me. I want to get some last minute bets in before these games start tipping off here in 12 minutes. All right, Michigan, USC, Andrew wants to know. This is one game that I ended up passing on, Adam, and I'm going to tell you why. Michigan, 5.5-point favorite. Let me see if I can find a total on this one. And this is here's a reality with some of these teams that I think are fraudulently maybe in the top 25, right? I don't trust Dusty May's team to not turn the ball over, right? Skee and I went into this. I need teams that make their free throws, and I need teams that are going to get to the basket, that are going to play hard for both halves, and that are not going to beat themselves and not make free throws down the stretch. And that is what's so frustrating about this Michigan team. They basically check every single box that says this team is going to completely screw you over in the last 3 minutes of a game. Now, USC, on the other hand, is nothing to write home about. Eric Musselman's out there now living up life in Orange County-ish. His team does make their free throws. They're not going to get hot from three. And they do have the free throw advantage go their way more often than not. Coming into Big Ten play, though, I'm kind of really concerned that maybe this team's just not as good as advertised. And some of these metrics are a little skewed because they haven't really played anybody outside of Oregon, New Mexico, and St. Mary's, all three losses on neutral courts or at home.
Yeah, so the way I look at this, like I'm in on Michigan and Dusty May long term, but for the reasons that you pointed out, it makes them difficult to back. And then of course you have them coming off of a game where they beat Western Kentucky 112-64, but like Western Kentucky was down a couple starters in that game, and you know the prior game, the Fort Wayne game, like those are those results, right? Like they're just trashing these lesser teams by 30. But then they get into a game against USC, who's at least capable. And then I think that's where you have to worry about the turnover issues, the fact that they're now headed out to the West Coast to play on the road. I made the number right where it is. I have the 6. I think it's 6 right now. So I don't have like much either way here. But I'm more inclined to take Michigan based on upside at this point. But again, not a bet I would make. There's way better things to bet today. But like going forward, I will find a spot to bet on Michigan because I believe in what Dusty May is doing, and I think he's got the players to do it. He's just got to clean up some of the mistakes, and I think Michigan will be fine.
So you mean you're looking at maybe back in Michigan more long-term to win the Big Ten, to maybe win the Big Dance?
Yeah, just like down the road, right? So like could be, I suppose if you get the right number, maybe to win the Big Ten, maybe longer term futures, but like, let's just say, let's say they lose this game in a couple days, they're on the road against UCLA. That could be a great setup to take them right there, depending on what happens with UCLA. So I think they win this game. I think Michigan wins this game. I just don't, my number's right on 6. And when there's 137 games, if my number's that close and I don't have a great handicap, it's a quick move on for me.
Okay, let's take a couple more questions in the chat. We got 9 minutes until my first bet kicks off or tips off. Ace Rothstein wants to know, I see the UMass Lowell sweater trig. Are you laying the 1.5 at Albany?
That's right. This was coincidence. I just grabbed this out of the closet, but that is the Riverhawk right there. If you can't see it, the UMass Lowell Riverhawk. This is oddly enough, Albany took some money. I am inclined to play back at that. I think UMass Lowell is like a significantly better team, and I've been kind of high on Albany at times this year, but like Lowell, I think has the goods to win this league this year. So Kelly, this is the America East Conference. It has been dominated by Vermont for as long as most people can remember. Vermont is quite a ways down this year, in my opinion. Now, I wouldn't bet against Vermont today. They're probably going to slam New Hampshire. That's a really bad New Hampshire team, and it's a good spot for Vermont to roll. But I don't think they're going to win this league this year. And I think the team that's likely to do it is UMass Lowell. They're really good on both ends of the floor. And the thing is, they can get to the rim and score. Albany's rim defense is so bad. It's just really bad. They don't guard the rim well at all. So if you've got guys that can score at the rim, It's going to almost be an auto play against Albany, and UMass Lowell has that. Now, I really don't know why this moved 2 points, right? Like it could just be someone decided they liked Albany because it is an extra board, smaller market game. But even if someone was out for Lowell, if you can get Lowell -1 here, I think that's a pretty good bet. It didn't make my card, but it's also a 4 p.m. game. I'm not entirely ruling it out.
We got 7 minutes here until tip-off for some of these early games. I know Kentucky, Florida is already underway. If you guys have a question for Trig, drop it in the chat. Theo Green wants to know Vermont, New Hampshire, but specifically in regards to the total.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super confident. Let me see I'm going to see what I made the. Let's see. So that's a pretty low total. I think it's 127. I got to be honest. Like, I'm not super confident in New Hampshire getting to 60 here. Like, this feels like a game where Vermont could only score like 65 and still win by like 14 points, right? It's like it feels like a very ugly like 68 to 53 type game, which I think would put you well under that total. I don't know if I want to get involved with an under 127. I'm not much of a totals guy. So the best thing I can give you here, and unfortunately, you probably missed the number at this point because this got bet up. I thought Vermont was a pretty good bet at -9.5. I think we're up to like 11.5 right now. I would absolutely not play back at that. I would not take New Hampshire here. So maybe if you can find Vermont in play, it might be a good play. As far as the total is concerned, I think it could be an under because I think this could be a pretty big blowout. No extension. New Hampshire struggling to get to 60. So even that 127 being as low as it is probably good.
All right, under for Vermont, New Hampshire. Anything on the Toledo at Western Michigan game? We're digging deep here, guys. Some MAC basketball here on Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think this is a noon tip. Western Michigan was a team, I got to be honest, and I didn't have a penny on this game, but them blowing a 20-plus point lead to Valparaiso, they played a day game a couple weeks ago, and I think it's probably anyone that had action on Western Michigan in that game, it will be their worst beat of the season. It was one of the worst collapses I've seen all year, and I don't know if that's ingrained in my head as to like why I can't take Western Michigan like -1 or whatever, but I make them a bigger favorite. I think this is a good matchup for them. It really comes down to, again, this being like Toledo should probably be better than the 6-6 they're at right now. You have to give them a pass a little bit because, their recent games are against teams like Houston, like Purdue, like they were never going to win those two games. I was really disappointed with Toledo in the Youngstown State game. I backed them in that game, and they gave up 93 points to a Youngstown State team I don't think is very good. A horrific loss to Oakland. Like they lost by 33 to Oakland. So I'm pretty high on Western Michigan relative to the market. I think Toledo might potentially be bad, but it's not something I really want to bet on. So if I was just going to trust my numbers, then it would be Western Michigan. But I'm still a little gun shy to fade Toledo because I thought they would be better.
All right, we got 2 questions left here before we let you guys go on this beautiful Saturday morning. I got about 3.5 minutes. If you guys have anything, we'll give Adam 90 seconds and let him go. Adam, what do you have right now up over at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, so right now I had all my plays in one package for the day, which I will throw that back up. But the only one that tips at noon, which means the full day package probably just came down, is Northeastern -3. So you've got 5 minutes to go get that, or 3 minutes to go get that in. That's my only noon play. I'll repost the plays for the rest of the day. But we've got a couple really good long-term specials as well. So check those out. Those are on everyone's page. But on mine as well, wt.buzz/AT. I'll probably end up with like 4 or 5 college basketball plays in total for the day. So, there's going to be plenty more. But like I said, I'm going to repost my package, and the next one won't start till 2 p.m. Eastern. So still plenty of time to get on that. To answer the question, James Madison, Arkansas State, I think it was. That's another team. Like, I guess I agree with Clint. I lean James Madison right there for the reason My preseason rating on James Madison was pretty high. They didn't fully live up to that in the non-conference. Like, definitely, 8-6 isn't terrible, but I'll go through the list. Like, there were games like Norfolk State, Towson, UC San Diego, the George Mason game recently, South Alabama, like games that I guess I think they maybe could or should win. But they've been better the last couple times out. And, Kelly, some of this is just like a general point that needs to be made. You have to treat the two seasons a little bit differently in terms of like non-conference play. Team gets a break, gets to regroup, comes into conference play. Like, I think that's like important to note. And now you've got an Arkansas State team that's favored on the road here. I think that's a big ask. And I think they're favored because they had the upset win at Memphis. They hung around with Alabama, like they beat UAB. So some really good results for Arkansas State, but I'm not totally convinced that they should be a 1-point favorite at JMU. So I'm with Clint. I lean James Madison.
All right, guys, we're going to let you go because tip-off is here in about 30 seconds for these noon Eastern games. At Adam Trigger WT on all your social channels, WT.buzz/AT. We'll be back here tomorrow afternoon, noon Eastern. Of course, they're 9 a.m. Pacific. We got the Prez joining us to talk some NFL. VR is coming in, of course, to give us a look behind the laptop screen. And John Murray, special guest once again because of course, Liverpool is playing. He loves doing last call when the Reds are on the TV behind him. Thank you, guys. Do some damage, as VR likes to say. Good luck on all your wagers today, and we'll see you tomorrow.